Now say this out loud as you're driving around in your car.
Join Sports Skillet.
Just what it feels like.
So how do you like it?
So what is it? I'm curious.
You like it like this?
My God, do we love football.
Or like this?
I love the sport of baseball.
And what about this?
You can have a sports show without all the vicious talk.
Simple human decency.
Whatever it is that you like.
Yeah, I like chaos.
We've got it covered.
Right?
It's sports the way you like it.
My friends, you may not know this. It's got everything you want.
Here we go. Local and national sports talk that's fresh, in season, and FDA approved. If it's hot, you'll find it cooking with Jeff, Jay, and Kelly. They don't just stir the pot, they add more flavor than the other guys. Get ready to dig in and taste some Sports Skillet.
Ooh, tastes good.
Right now.
And welcome to the Friday edition of the Sports Skillet live stream. So sorry we were not here last week, but unfortunately, or fortunately actually, my dad, we've been discussing his health problems on our show on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey. We've been discussing them here. Well, my dad finally got released from Abington Memorial Hospital. He is at home. We are adjusting to life now with Dad being back home. This is the first time that he's been home since mid-October, or late October actually, when he was in to get an LVAD, left ventricular assistant device, implanted in him. So he went through rehab. He had suffered a stroke, got set back, but now he's progressed to a point where he was sent home last Friday. So now we are adjusting to life. He has physical, occupational, speech therapist coming in. He has a nurse coming in, and we're adjusting to life with him being on an LVAD and everything that goes along with that. But, you know, we are working our way through things. You know, each day poses a different challenge, and we're enjoying meeting all the therapists and having them come to the house. Dad did go to a restaurant during one of his visits back to Abington Hospital this past week. So he did well with that. One thing we are learning is that we have to kind of scope out the restaurant before we bring him to one, make sure that the bathroom is accessible to him, as he is currently using a walker to get around. But hopefully that's for a short period of time, and then he can progress to a cane, continue on with his rehab. He's doing really well. His spirits are up. He's a fighter, as we all know. We appreciate all your comments and texts and reaching out to us. And we want to let you know that, you know, you can always stop by the house. Just let us know when you're coming over. And you can always stop by our house to give Dad some more motivation, because he still needs it. He's still progressing through his rehab, still has a ways to go to where he wants to get to. But we appreciate everybody reaching out to us on social media, sending us cards and everything like that. It's really inspiring, Dad. It's helping us, keeping our spirits going too, as his caregivers and everything. You know, the one thing that we are challenged with here on the Sports Skillet radio show is the fact that either Jeff or I, because we are familiar with everything that goes with the LVAD and caring for an LVAD patient, one of us kind of has to be with him 24/7 right now until he progresses a little bit further. So we have that challenge going on. So that's why Jeff may be calling in to our show on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey, or maybe calling into our live stream here on Friday afternoons. So there's only one of us that will be in studio until Dad progresses a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that we aren't sharing our opinions on social media and everything like that. Again, we want to remind you to check out our social media accounts: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and right here on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, so you don't miss any of our great content. We just had a story posted from Mike Nebbia, who will be joining us shortly. he talks about the ongoing issues with Major League Baseball and how the managers are getting whacked one by one and all the tentacles going on with that. So you want to check that out at sportsskilletradio.com. Again, check us out. Like, follow, subscribe, share. We want to build our audience. We want to bring you the great content that we have here on the live stream every Friday afternoon. And again, we want to talk about the issues that are important to you. That's why we want you to comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about and everything like that. Because we love entertaining you, and that's why we do this, to be informative and entertaining and bring on great guests. And speaking of great guests, we have our usual contributor on our Friday live stream, Ken Moskowitz, joining us. Ken, how are you doing this Friday afternoon?
Well, we're trying to stay warm as much as possible because I'm sure, like you and everyone down in the Princeton, Trenton, and the Philadelphia area, the dose of reality has finally hit us all, and that's the cold weather, old man winter, if you will. So, and that's what I kept saying this morning. Welcome to winter officially, because it's going to be around for a little while now. So, but I just wanted to also very quick, Jay, again let you know that my family and I are always thinking about, you, Jeff, and more importantly, your dad. And again, it's wonderful to read about the progress that your dad has been through, gone through, and I know will continue to go through. And therefore, I believe we're family, and all the love and much love and many blessings to you, Jeff, and your dad. And may he progress even farther and as quick as anything, because I know all you want to get to those Phillies games this year too eventually. So we'll see what happens. But all the best to you, Dad. We love you here.
Cool, I appreciate it. And yeah, that is one of his goals that he has been talking about, is going to as many Phillies games. We have a partial season ticket plan, allows us to see a bunch of teams during the course of the season, and he wants to get to as many Philly games as he can possibly get to this summer. And that should be a realistic goal. I think he should be able to achieve that. And hopefully he'll be down in our season ticket seats this coming season, and can't wait to enjoy. Can't wait till the warmer weather comes back. I mean, we were blessed this past week with some really nice days, but can't wait till the warmer weather returns and we're down at Citizens Bank Park cheering on those Philadelphia Phillies and new manager Joe Girardi. And
Indeed.
That's going to be really fun. Well, I know we're going to be talking about the Eagles, but this is a good transition. Lots going on with Major League Baseball. I want to get your take on this with the Houston Astros scandal that's going on. We've seen Carlos Beltran. He just got whacked by the New York Mets. You can say it was a firing. You can say they amicably parted. You can say that maybe he thought he could weather the storm. I saw a tweet saying that he told Mets ownership and management that, hey, I could weather this, but they decided to part ways with Carlos Beltran. Of course, we've got the Astros GM and manager that got dismissed. We got the Boston Red Sox manager that got dismissed as well. And now literally you have three teams, two of which were you would think would be contenders for a playoff spot in the American League. Mets might have also, maybe they still do, contend for a playoff spot in the National League. But now you have those three teams scrambling to find a manager on short notice because we're literally weeks away from spring training starting.
Absolutely. I mean, look, with what's happening, I'll tell you, with what has happened, I'll tell you. I mean, like, to me, it's well, I mean, it's sad. It really is sad, and especially to the sport that I had always considered number one from the time I was real young. I mean, it's really in a way unfathomable. I mean, it really disturbs me. It really does. Now, yeah. I mean, like, I get some of the the commentary for previous, and prior to all this, you had to say, like, Larry Boa, mentioned months back, at least a few months back, give or take, saying that, well, there was always whatever happening in in Major League Baseball. It happened here, and then but to this extent, though, to have a whether it was a camera or a specific device or something in a trash can receptacle. And to I don't know what I really didn't hear exactly what the order of operation was, so to speak, but I know it was it was a total of 4 knocks. I'm guessing it might have been like, just say 1 for a fastball or 2 for a curve, whatever the case may be. And I mean, it really is disturbing. It really is disturbing. And, I'm happy that, Rob Manfred is taking initiative and, really laying the law down. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, Jay, I think there might be more coming down the pike too, as far as, possible, suspects, if you will, whether it's, the active players or a few more of the coaches that, and possibly have the more suspensions, like I said, coming down the pike even.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, too. We haven't gotten to the Boston Red Sox yet. We're waiting for their penalty to be announced. And, the thing of it is, more and more it seems to be getting put out on social media. And the latest thing is that Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman, apparently things are out there on social media saying they might have used buzzers that were attached to their uniforms or attached to their bodies. Like when a fastball was coming, they get buzzed or something like that to prepare for a fastball. And the thing is, you see Jose Altuve coming back to home plate after hitting a home run, and you can see him grabbing his jersey on there and saying to to his teammates on the Houston Astros, "Don't rip my jersey off! Don't rip my jersey off!" And he's grabbing at it, after hitting this dramatic home run. And you kind of wonder, if he's wearing that buzzer, is that the reason why he's clutching his jersey, not allowing it to be torn off, not allowing anybody to see what's underneath his jersey as he's crossing home plate with his teammates crowding around there? You wonder, does that lend credence now to the buzzer scandal? I mean, there's layers to this onion that are constantly getting unwrapped here, and it's costing people their jobs, and organizations. Not only do the Houston Astros now are looking for a GM and a manager, but now they've been whacked a bunch of draft picks. They've been fined millions of dollars in this. I mean, it's going to set the Houston Astros back quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, it's just unbelievable. I mean, from going from me, and as well as you and every other baseball fan saying, look, oh, wow, quite a few years back prior to 2017 that, it was predicted by, I'd like to say it might have been Sports Illustrated. I'll never forget it. It was like yesterday. Seeing, having the Houston Astros 2017, what could be predicted as your World Series champs. I didn't think it was ever going to come to this extent, though. I mean, it really is sad. One word, sad. It really is.
It really is. And here's my point about the whole thing. I am firmly in the camp, and I've heard some people on social media maybe criticizing the commissioner, Rob Manfred, about the punishment that he sent down. I am firmly backing Rob Manfred in his punishment of the Houston Astros. I've heard on social media that some front office executives or maybe even some players thought that maybe it should have come down even harder and more on the teams that were involved in this. The penalty should have been harsher. Whatever Rob Manfred wanted to do with this punishment, I am firmly and thoroughly behind him, because here's the two things. Number one, it says in the rule book that they're not allowed to use electronic devices to gain an advantage over your opponent. Okay, it says it in the rule book. These teams, whether it's the Red Sox or the Houston Astros, spit in the face of the rule book, number one. Number two is the commissioner sent out and contacted all the teams saying that if you are found guilty of this offense, you will be harshly dealt with. So number two is they spit in the face of not only the rule book, but now the commissioner when they circumvented this rules. Now, you can say that cheating has been a part of baseball. It's a time-honored tradition. I mean, you talk about pitchers putting things on the baseball, different substances. You talk about the pine tar incident with George Brett. Yes. And this goes with all sports. Teams are constantly trying to one-up and trying to circumvent the rules, find that little competitive edge. Look at the New England Patriots, right? They're always looking to find that little edge. But when it says in the rule book that you're not allowed to do something, when the commissioner comes down and says you're not allowed to do something, then you know what? When you do it, then you're going to be dealt with harshly. It could be your career. It could be your team's career. I mean, they knew going in what was going to happen. If we're found out, if this happens, it could affect the organization. And Steve Phillips put out, and I don't know if you saw the tweet put out by Steve Phillips, but he put out a tweet saying that when he was GM of the Mets, he was responsible for buying and installing the television equipment. So he knew, so as GM of the Mets, he was aware of what was going on with the television equipment and things like that. He also was fined, I think, a couple $100,000 for something one of his employees did that he had no knowledge of when it came to like an international signing. His employee, his scout, signed a player and he was fined a couple $100,000. So, I mean, it's like one of those things. You're supposed to know what goes on with the people that you are managing, and you put people in charge. If you can't trust them, fire them, get rid of them. That's the thing with the Houston Astros. If the GM couldn't trust the head coach, if the head coach was allowing things, then the head coach, AJ Hinch, should have been fired. Get rid of them. But you have to know what your employees are doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't read that tweet, but I vaguely remember those two instances. years ago when Phillips was general manager of the Mets. I do remember that though. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. So that's why I am firmly, in the camp of baseball, going out there. Now, what I will also say that goes along with this as well is I think going forward, this would be a great time for Major League Baseball, for the owners and the players to kind of come together, players union to kind of come together and to kind of embrace technology. And by that, what I mean is I've heard some rumors or information put out that maybe the pitchers could be wearing like a little watch type device, a wrist device on their arms where they would receive a certain number. Like if you wanted to throw a fastball, it's 1, and they could look down on their arm. Okay, and the catcher is requesting like throw a fastball 1, and the number 1 appears on the device on his arm. So that way, it goes away from the fingers going down on the catchers and the signs and that type of thing. So this might be a good time. You know what? Let's go with that watch device. And and my feeling is 4 guys are having that watch on their arm, and that would be the pitcher, the catcher, the manager, and the pitching coach. And they can type in a number, and they can go back and forth for a few seconds, deciding on what pitch they want to throw. There's no hand signals. There's no the catcher going down into a squat, realigning, putting down the 4 or the 3 fingers or whatever. It comes up on the watch. The pitcher can shield it. He can, maybe send out what pitch he wants, what number of pitch he wants to throw. They can change up the numbers, from inning to inning. I think that would be a great idea. Embrace technology. Don't fight it. And let's get rid of the catcher flashing, putting down his fingers, and let's embrace technology, not fight it. And that way you don't have to worry about the cameras in the outfield or this or that. You just have to worry about, shielding the watch by the pitcher and that type of thing. There's no fingers going down or anything like that.
Right. Well, no, it seems like a really magnificent idea. You're in the day and age. I mean, that's it's the day and age for this. So I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. Get everybody together. Have a discussion about it and say, look, you know what, this could help quite a bit as far as like you said, the pitcher, the catcher, the manager, and at least 3 or 4 of them all being on the same page and in sync with each other. Where Aaron Nola is going to throw a fastball 1, so there you go, or what So I mean, because then at least you're right there. And Major League Baseball knows what's happening, not just with one game. They're going to know with their and with every game that's happening. Whether it's on that day or that night or whatever, and then there's nothing nothing illegal that's taking place or. I think it's a magnificent idea. That would really be a real good thing, I think, too.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We don't know, how far the tentacles of this scandal is going to hit. I mean, you have had a managerial candidate on the Houston Astros, Joe Espada. He was mentioned in a lot of circles as being this hot managerial candidate. He's the next guy up. A lot of team, I think San Francisco might have brought him in. He was a really hot managerial candidate. Now I got to wonder, with this scandal taking place, can the Astros promote him? Because he was on the Astros he was a coach on the Astros when all this went down. Does it affect his managerial candidacy with other teams going forward? I mean, here's a guy knows his stuff. What I felt, he would make an excellent manager. Now you got to wonder what his future holds. I mean, the tentacles of this are reaching out, all over the place. You wonder, Carlos Beltran was the only player's name mentioned in this report. And all this took place 3 years ago when he was a player. Now he's been removed from the Mets job. And that was something that I felt was really unnecessary. I know he was a part of the Houston Astros when this took place, but the only reason that he got that he and the Mets parted ways was that he was the only player's name mentioned in this report. And I know the players that are talking to Major League Baseball were given immunity and are under the shield of the Major League Baseball Players Association because the commissioner doesn't want to get into this litigious situation with the Players Association and have it dragged out over the course of months, if not years, before it reaches a final conclusion. So he said he's not going to be disciplining any of the players, but you just did discipline a player in Carlos Beltran. I felt that the Mets caved on this. I think Carlos Beltran, if you're not going to discipline any of the players, I think Carlos Beltran should still be managing the New York Mets. I don't think he should have been dismissed. I think the Mets should have had some stones and say, you know what, we hired this guy, we stand behind him. What happened was 3 years ago on the Astros, no players are being, and stand up to Major League Baseball. Say, you're not disciplining any players, so we are not disciplining Carlos Beltran. He's going to remain our manager. That's my take on Beltran. I think he should still be managing the New York Mets.
Yes. I mean, now, I thought I heard a thing yesterday, I believe it was, that prior to his prior to his exit, let's just put it that way, because whether you want to say part ways fired or whatnot, that's up to whoever. But prior to his exit, though, I had thought I heard on one of the morning shows that he wasn't necessarily. I don't think he was necessarily a co-conspirator, somewhat, but I thought I heard he had a little part.
Yeah.
In the thing with Alex Cora.
Yes, and that's fine, and I I do believe he did have a part in it, but again, if you're not disciplining any of the players and you're giving them immunity, and the only reason that Beltran and the Mets were have parted ways was because of maybe internal pressure from the outside of having this linger on, or they thought he wasn't going to be able to answer the questions and it was going to... No, I think what would have happened is you could have marched Beltran out there, had a press conference or whatever, get everything out into the open and move on. Or just come out and say, we are keeping Beltran as our manager. Here's our team response to it, and let that be it. We're
or
not
both.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you probably should, being that you meant Bernie Van Wagenen and company there should have had both. Limit, maybe like a, put it all into a 10-minute, presser or whatever, but have it, where it was, but where both are out in the open, and Yeah, I mean, it makes for an interesting thing here in New York. I mean, I know, like, on local sports radio here yesterday. I know the fans were Met fans particularly. I mean, from all over, they were just literally calling up, and I mean, they're just beside themselves. I mean, which makes the Willie Randolph firing from 20 almost what are we talking 15 years ago now, it'll be soon from now, look like roses compared to what's happening now. I mean, they should have had both situations pop out yesterday, again, some type of a, whether it was a 5-minute or a 10-minute presser of some type, in front of the, New York media, or, a limited amount of media personnel, saying, look, you know what, here's what the situation was as I was a player, and there should have been some type of thing where, as far as the Met, whether it's Beltran's defense or the Mets upper echelon, it should have been where Beltran should have been remaining, for the present time as manager of the Mets, because I mean, look, you blink your eyes and before you know it, spring training's going to be here. I mean, now leading up to that part of it. Now, I also heard, too, about, Van Wagenen made mention now he's, now they're starting the process all over again. I'll tell you what, I did hear one thing, and I will say I do agree with this one thing. Why do you need to start a process? Whoever you interviewed last, prior to hiring Beltran, okay, and he did very well, from what I understand too. He did very well in the interview process. That being Eduardo Perez, okay. Why not just hire your second? Why not hire your second best interviewee in Eduardo Perez? Why do you need to go through a whole kit and caboodle? Now, this is where I think the Astros may have to take the time and do a whole kit and caboodle of interviews and whatnot, because they need to, they have to get themselves straightened out in the utmost way possible in order to start their 2020 campaign. But the Mets, though, as far as interview processes go, I really honestly think I think it's just me, but I don't think there's really a necessary, action that needs to be taken as far as, okay, well, we have to start interviewing a bunch of candidates again now. Let's see who we can go down the line and what. Yeah. Honestly, I think if you were to hire, if you need to have that manager in place as soon as possible, because again, mid-February is going to be around the corner soon. So, I mean, and you need to have that manager in place in order to be introduced, for him in turn to introduce himself to the players and, get used to the routines and study the playbooks and whatnot. Yeah, I really honestly think that Van Wagenen, he doesn't necessarily, reality-wise, he shouldn't have to go through the whole process again. And I would think with a little convincing from the Wilpons as well. I think the sooner that you were to take, just say Eduardo Perez. Yeah. Introduce him, say, look, you know what, we're calling you up. We want to reintroduce you. We want you to come back to New York. least for a 10-minute chat or whatever, and then let's introduce you as your new our new manager. I think the process for unlike the Astros, I think the Mets shouldn't have to go through all that.
Yeah,
through the whole interview process once again of having a bunch of list of candidates, go one by one, having to meet them off. Whatever the case may be, I think the sooner that they land a manager, the better. The New York Mets, that is.
I agree with you right there. And the other thing too with that is whatever managers are hired for these positions with the Mets, with the Astros, with the Boston Red Sox. Here's the thing. They are going to have to navigate this season with a ready-made assistant coaching staff, hitting coach, pitching coach, third base coach. Their staff is in place. And as we saw with the Girardi hiring by the Phillies, a lot of times filling out a coaching staff underneath the manager is a collaborative effort between the GM and the newly hired manager. Well, in this case, the manager is going to be hired and is just going to be helicoptered in there as a manager, and it's going to have to maybe deal with, assistant coaches that the prior manager may have wanted to work with, the GM wanted on the staff, and maybe he feels comfortable working with some other people, but in this case, he's not going to have any leeway to choose his coaching staff. He's just going to be helicoptered in there and have to deal with the personalities on his staff, and that may make it a little bit more difficult to find a candidate, because maybe I don't want to step into this scenario on the Houston Astros where I'm going to be asked constantly all season about the cheating scandal. What do I feel about it? And have to kind of protect my assistant coaches who I may not know all that well. Who was picked by the former manager who was terminated. I mean, that's going to be a real thing. How does the manager get along with the assistant coaches underneath him? Maybe he has a slightly different philosophy. I mean, you look at Gabe Kapler versus Joe Girardi. Those two guys are different type of managers. Right. So they'll have different type of staffs underneath them, and that's going to be a real thing all year with this team, helicoptering a new manager in there.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that could very well be too. That could very well be the reasoning too, that possibly that just say the Mets are looking to that they think they need to start again too, but maybe for that particular reason. But I do think though as well. Again, I do think that if they just say or are to go with Eduardo Perez. We don't know for sure, but if they do go with Eduardo Perez, and then he'll know that, okay, well, you know what, Chili Davis is our hitting coach, and this person, he's our first base coach. This guy's our first base coach, and third base, and so on and so forth. So I mean, which I believe the coaching staff for the Mets, though. If I remember correctly, it seemed like they did a really good job, working with the players overall, especially this past year too. So, but no, I do agree. I do agree with what you're saying too. It could very well be that that being the case too. So, we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. It'll be an interesting timeline of events that between, as far as the Mets go, to see what their dealings are and what and how they what the end result will be as far as their what will be now managerial search. As well as Boston and again, I do think it's going to. we may see a record happening maybe too with the Astros. It could very well come down for them, I think, maybe, because it seems like their owner is quite, I don't know if I would say on the ball or what, but it could very well come down to what could be right before spring training starts even. Because I know that because I'm thinking the Astros, just from making 2-2, okay, they need to really, hunker down and be extremely careful at who they hire, too, I think. So it's going to be interesting.
It really is. Well, let's turn the page and talk a little NFL, talk a little football. Before we get to some hot topics with the Eagles and the playoff games, wanted to talk with you real quick about Antonio Brown. I don't think this guy is going to play another down in the NFL. He really, absolutely needs some help. I mean, you talk about the video that he posted on social media. I mean, of cursing out his, I want to say, former girlfriend when she was picking up the kids from the house. I mean, I don't know who he's surrounding himself with, but he is definitely not in the right frame of mind. He really needs just to get away, get some in-house therapy, go to whatever kind of therapy, mental health facility, and just get away from the people that he's currently hanging out with. Because for them to cheer him on, for social media people to cheer him on, this guy needs serious mental help, because you don't do that in front of the kids, and you don't do that to their mom. Two things. He just needs to get away, be with some mental health professionals for quite a while, and figure out what the heck is going wrong with him. I don't think, and as talented as he is, he could have had a tremendous career in the NFL, making millions upon millions of dollars as one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. And, for it to come to this is very sad, and he just needs to get help.
Yeah, no. Now, first off, I didn't realize. Now, this I guess is the testament to my being me. Yeah. Because, like, I'm focused on the good side of sports, the happenings that are overall, and to separate myself from listening to the nonsense that's happening, whether it's in the news or or in this case what you're mentioning now.
Oh, I hear you.
But I will say, with what had happened prior. Okay, now if I'm putting two and two together, I think thanks to this video that you mentioned, that no wonder why Drew Rosenhaus, from what I read, said, you know what, adios.
That says a lot right there.
Yeah.
For Drew Rosenhaus.
I'm not a big fan of Drew Rosenhaus. Never had been from the time we had Terrell Owens. But I tell you,
he brought Bryce Harper to Philly.
When you read Drew separate himself after so many years from Antonio Brown, as far as Brown being a client of his, I mean, it tells you a lot.
It does.
I'll tell you, overall, though, I will say this, though. Look, I'm one to forget. And I'm one that, believes in my heart that, there are nothing but, really, really good people out there. Yeah. Okay. Now, not counting any of what we read, heard, seen, whatnot from Antonio Brown, I'm sure he's got to have that good heart in him. He's got to. So
somewhere,
with that said, I do think, as far as someone needs to latch on to him, a really good Samaritan, an extremely good Samaritan out there has got to latch on them and say, look, I'm wanting to help you. and I'm wanting to help you in the worst way. You want to really get back into the swing of things as far as football or what, with that, I mean, whether it's whatever, that's up to, up to Antonio too, but I want to get you on the straight and narrow. Now, had he with whatever transpired the first time around prior to his getting hired by the Patriots, prior to the Patriots hooking him up, had he gotten himself on the extreme straight and narrow, we probably would have seen him play this year, I think. But, I wish nothing but the best for him. I really do. And that, being, given any type of defense for Brown, wishing nothing but the best in needing to getting himself, mentally healthy. Physically, he obviously looks really healthy, but as far as the mental aspect of him getting healthy, it's really important. To me, it's really important. I mean, and yes, he's got it. That extremely good Samaritan, whoever it is, gentleman X, gentlelady Y, whatever the case, whoever it is, can just latch on and say, you know what, I'm going to separate you from that bad pack. You do not need to be around these people at all. Whatever it is that you're doing, you don't need to be around this stuff that you're, mixing and mingling with. It's very harmful, and I do wish him well. And I really hope he does get the help he needs, because I'm telling you, it's a shame because such great talent. I mean, looking at him all those years with the Steelers, I mean, come on.
Yep.
It's really good talent that's hard to not see, in different highlight reels and that. So, I mean, given any benefit, again, I wish him the best.
Yep, I hope he gets the help that he sorely and severely needs. Let's turn our attention to the Philadelphia Eagles. They have some coaching vacancies since they fired Mike Groh and their wide receivers coach, and Corey Undlin left, so they have to find their defensive backs coach. So they have some openings there on their coaching staff, and one by one we're seeing some of these guys tick off the candidacy meter, if you will, and we're trying to figure out who the Eagles might have interest in for the position. I mean, one by one, these guys are ticking off some really good candidates, and we're not seeing the Eagles be very proactive. Apparently, they have not made an inquiry yet for Mike Kafka as an offensive candidate from the Kansas City Chiefs. We're seeing some other guys take themselves out of the running. James Urban, Kevin O'Connell have, they're apparently no longer available. I mean, where do you see this search going, Ken?
Well, and I'll tell you what, I don't, do I blame them for not making, a quick inquiry yet? I don't know. I'm not. I don't fault them at all. Because look, you need to have the right personnel in place to work with the talent that we have. Okay, and it's really crucial and imperative that you have the right personnel, and especially if you want to get, being that you made the playoffs last year. Third year in a row that you made the playoffs, but last year as well, you ended up winning the division, hosting a playoff game. That's step one in your process to what hopefully will be getting back to the playoffs again next season, but going even farther. So you need the right the right and experienced personnel, in my opinion, in there. Now, I think, I'll tell you, because like you said, Joe Urban, who has worked with Andy Reid in the past in Philadelphia, he's taken himself out. I believe it was Bobby Ingram, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
He's
out.
Yep.
As well, he too has taken himself, like you said, as well as who'd you say, Mike
Kafka. I mean, apparently the Eagles
have not Mike Kafka. The other name that you mentioned after.
Let's see. We have Mike Kafka was in there, and Bobby Ingram took himself out. James Urban took himself out. O'Connell, yep.
Yes. Yeah, now Kafka took himself out, you said?
No, Kafka didn't. But
No.
apparently the Eagles haven't reached out to the Chiefs to request an interview.
Okay. Something is telling me, I think, I think you might be hearing, I think they're going to wait until the weekend is up. And then once the weekend is up, I think they're going to want to, they'll I think want to make that phone call, depending upon what the end result is. I think they're going to make that phone call after this upcoming Sunday to inquire, I think, to possibly request that interview with Kafka, because I'll tell you, the way I'm reading it, to me, Kafka would be like the way Milt Thompson was with the Phillies. Like, he was average. Milt Thompson's average, but a hell of a hitting coach. I think that's the same with Kafka. You know what? He was at best average, maybe a little bit below as a quarterback for us. All right, for the short time that he did play. But from what I hear, he's done a heck of a job with Andy Reid, though, too. So I do think I have a feeling that they'll be requesting that interview. Now, and again, I don't blame them for taking their time, because look, you know what? they're an organization that needs that is on the side of winning and that. And I do think again, the right personnel that's in there. They're looking for the right personnel. Whether between Doug Peterson and Jeff Lurie. They're looking for the right personnel to and the experienced personnel as well, in terms of working with the talent that's on that ball club too. So I do think that that's the reason, I think, too, behind their taking their time. Unlike unlike the Giants or because yes, it seemed like there was a little bit of an effect that out there with in a matter of, I'd like to say, maybe a week, in which you had this coach hired, it was on that, so on and so forth, and again, everybody was wondering, well, why, what's with the Eagles? I think that's because, again, they're taking their time, they want to go through the process. I think they're going in about it in a very correct way, because they don't want to make that move in which it may backfire, and then before you know it, would be possibly having a losing season. So yep. I don't blame them at all.
And two, I think, here's the thing that comes with that offensive coordinator position. Going in that this is Doug Peterson's offense. So you're going to be in a collaborative effort to begin with Doug Peterson in designing the game plan week to week. You're going to be in a collaborative effort with him when it comes to the running of the offense, because that's Doug's pride and joy. And you're not going to be able to call the plays on game day. You may suggest some of the plays. You may have his ear and say, hey, Doug, we need to run the ball a little bit more. Let's try these plays. But ultimately, you're not the one calling the plays. So for the offensive coordinator position, there may be other teams that you can go to, or that you can stay with your current team and be able to call the plays, have more of a direct effect on the offense than what you would get working under Doug. That being said, the other thing that goes along with this is if you are successful with collaborating with Doug and you do have Doug's ear in the suggestion of plays and collaborating with the offense, now all of a sudden that could lead to something lucrative down the line in terms of being a head coach on another team, or getting a position that may be more where you have more say in the offense. All you have to do is look at the Indianapolis Colts and Frank Reich, and the Eagles' former quarterbacks coach, who's now been going from, kind of job to job. I'm glad that they didn't hire DiFilippo. I'm glad, that's one guy that I'm glad they didn't bring back, because I think it's telling that DiFilippo goes to teams, is there for about a season or so, and then gets terminated as their offensive coordinator. And I think it was also telling, last season when Doug Peterson had the opportunity to bring back DiFilippo as whatever you want to call it, a special passing game coach, or, a special assignment coach, or, whatever made-up position you want to throw out there to bring DiFilippo back to the Eagles, and Doug Peterson did not do it. It tells me, and there was an outcry, hey, let's bring back Flip. He did real well with working with Carson Wentz. But I think it's telling that when Doug Peterson had the opportunity to bring him back and bring him, as whatever kind of assistant, whatever you want to call him, Peterson refused, and he's been going from team to team as their offensive coordinator. Now he's on the Chicago Bears, and he works, and he maybe survives a year before a team moves on from him. There's something there, that he might be an okay coach, but maybe with his personality, or there's something there that may rub guys the wrong way, or he's not doing enough, or they bring him in and, he talks himself up a good game, and then once you get him on the team, you find out that you were sold a bill of goods, and he's maybe not quite as good as you may have thought, for the offensive coordinator position, So I think there's something there with Flip. So I'm glad the Eagles did not bring him back and are looking at other candidates, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. And then you have the wide receivers coaching position too as well. And I'll tell you, I think that's going to be an interesting hire too, because now, from what I have read within the last maybe 3 or 4 days, maybe 5, that an interesting name popped out too. And from what I understood, and lo and behold, I didn't know it until 3 or 4 days ago. That and I believe he was the assistant offensive coordinator, believe it or not, to Adam Gase. That being Hines Ward.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, that would be a really, really, I think, an awesome hire if he does grant, if he is granted, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this. If I'm not mistaken, if he's granted I think a second second interview, because I believe he talked with I think that he did talk with the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to say the beginning of the week, but I'll tell you, I think it would be a really, really awesome hire because then, and I know I've said this. I said this past season, and I know we went back and forth a little bit on it. That you got Joe Douglas as GM, and if we were we would be asking about Robbie Anderson. Then, of course, there'd be a lot that we'd have to, fork up for him. But I'll tell you what, if we were to hire Hines Ward, tell you, you don't know. There might be, he might bring that little talent of back to the Del Valle area and Temple prospect, and you never know.
I would absolutely love to see Hines Ward because the minute you sign him and the minute he walks into that room, the wide receiver room, that he's garnering respect from everybody in there. And my only question with Hines Ward is, can he be a patient teacher? Because that's what you kind of have to do as a coach nowadays, is be that teacher. Players are leaving colleges earlier. You're getting younger players in there. So you need to coach them up, develop them. And if Hines Ward can be that type of teacher and have that type of patience, because I've seen it before. I mean, we've seen it on the Village with Ryan Sandberg. Just because you're this awesome player, maybe even a Hall of Famer, doesn't mean that you can teach, doesn't mean that you can manage players in this day and age. But if Hines Ward can be that teacher, can develop players, I'm all aboard the Hines Ward train. Absolutely. Bring him in.
Yeah.
He has respect from the guys, and he can be hard on them. And they'll listen. And if he's hard on them, they will listen to him because of what he did throughout his career. Plus, and here's the other added value, that his buddy is Deuce Staley. So those two guys have a good relationship going. So maybe if Deuce Staley becomes the offensive coordinator, I think he's currently recruiting Hines Ward to come aboard to the Eagles. So if the two of them can kind of work together, and I think that would be a great relationship right there.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were all teammates too. What was it? The latter part of Deuce's career, I believe it was.
That's right, with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, so I mean, that's understandably well too. I know. Also, yeah, it would really be good. It's going to be interesting to find out and to keep track of what happens with that.
I would love it. The other thing that was kind of like a firestorm I wanted to bring up real quick is Jim Schwartz. He got interviewed by the Cleveland Browns for their head coaching position. Obviously, they went in another direction with Stefanski, which I think is going to be another disaster for them. But beyond that, a lot of people were saying good riddance, get rid of Jim Schwartz. I am not in that camp. I like Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, I grant you that there were some big plays given up, but the ultimate result to me is every team is going to give up big plays to wide receivers. You saw, the Seattle Seahawks getting burned with their defensive backfield. You're going to give up big plays to the opposing team. It's just going to happen in this day and age with the offense. But bottom line is, how many points are you giving up? Are you allowing your offense to stay in the game, to get their feet underneath them if they're struggling? Can the defense win some games for you? And Jim Schwartz's defenses can. You saw it down the stretch. You saw it in the playoffs against the Seattle Seahawks. His defenses this year don't give up too many points normally. Occasionally with every defense, they're going to get gashed. You're going to have those big games, but by and large, he allows the offenses to stay in the game. And I don't know who you would replace Jim Schwartz with if the Cleveland had offered him the head coaching job and he accepted. I don't know who you would replace him with, because that person that you would have to replace Schwartz with would have to run the same type of defense of 43. You're not going to bring in a 34 defensive head coach. So the head coach that limits right there how many defensive coordinators you could bring in. They would have to kind of have a feel for the personnel already on the Eagles. I think it would have been a disaster had Jim Schwartz gone off to Cleveland. I'm glad that he's still on the Eagles, and hopefully he can be Doug's right-hand man for a few more seasons at least.
Well, hopefully. I know that now this year will be the last on his contract too. So, I do think it's. I mean, like, and in his defense as well too. Look at the injuries that you had as well too, and especially with a really smash secondary too. That you can't fault injury, and you certainly can't fault Schwartz for that too. So, I do think overall, like with the offensive coordinator search, with the wide receiver search, all right, it's imperative. It's imperative, and especially with the last year on his contract, I think it's really imperative that they all have that collaborative effort, have that terrific regular season that you want to try to work as hard as you can to have a really good regular season to gain that bye week, to gain the home field, what hopefully would be the home field, and then to basically take it from there. So I mean, I do think I'll tell you, it would be nice to see. And now, have I made it known that I'm not the biggest Schwartz fan in the world? No, absolutely. Right. I'm not going to,
which is fine,
sit here and sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
But he has done a really, really good job. Okay. Yep. Yes, there have been games in which I've criticized and critiqued and whatnot, but overall, in since 2016, he has done an overall good job. So I mean, I do wish him. I hope it's even a better season upcoming. My only one thing with him, though, look, this year, in my opinion, to me, and again, in his defense, you had a real decimated secondary, which was unfortunate, but and he obviously did what he had to do to get those, get Russell Douglas, and Russell Douglas, he really didn't do. I thought he didn't do that bad of a job. I mean, he wasn't great, but he didn't do that bad of a job. And there were a few other players here and there, but overall though, from the word go, when that first game of the regular season starts, and as soon as that defense takes the field, they have to really not keep the opposing offense on the field. They needed to go 3 and out like immediately from the start, and you gotta pressure and do what you can to keep that, to keep your defense off the field, your defense, meaning our defense, off that field as much as possible. So therefore, from the moment the word go happens, he's got to do that, because I did think, though, a little bit that, we felt there were a few crucial games, one of them being that Detroit game. I thought we had in hand, and it was like, at times he fell asleep at the wheel a bit too. So as far as, calling a few of the defensive plays too. So, from the word go, he's got to really set the wheels in motion, I think, in which I believe he can. I believe he can. So, but overall, I think he's done a really remarkable job so far.
All right, now finally let's expand it, leaving a little bit more. Talk about the divisional round from last Sunday. We had the Titans beating the Ravens 28-12. Texans losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in a historic comeback by the Chiefs. Chiefs winning 51-31. Any takeaways from those two games?
Well, as far as the Chiefs go, I'll tell you, that this is where I say you have a really, really awesome and special talent in Pat Mahomes.
Definitely.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, he managed to, there were a few, mishaps at the very beginning to the point where, what was it, first whole quarter and what, the little quarter of the first quarter of the second,
yeah.
That they fell behind 24-0. He's like, guys, let's take a breath or two. Let's relax. We got this. And sure enough, I mean, he is a special talent. That's basically all I could say. I mean, and Andy Reid, tell you, Andy Reid picks him. You can't, you got to give him credit, boy. I mean, and as far as the Titans go, I'll tell you, they look good the last. What are we talking? The last several weeks now. I think if you get Derrick Henry, you give Derrick Henry the ball, okay, and if I'll tell you what, if they come out, if they receive the ball first, and if they come out swinging. And if they, I think, really honestly, and especially with this upcoming AFC Championship game, honestly, all I think it's going to take is just, for whoever it is, if the first team that jumps out to a 14-0 lead, I think that's going to be your AFC champion. I think, even though for a homer I am, and I know you have to be too, Jay.
Yep.
I'm rooting for Andy Reid in the worst way possible. So, but I do say overall for that AFC Championship game, I think whoever jumps out to a 14-0 lead, I think there's really, in a way, no looking back.
I don't know. After seeing the Chiefs come back from 24-0, even if the Titans jumped out to a 14-0 lead, that might not be enough to slow down Kansas City.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, but I think, but again, with these playoffs, in one game, it's like a one-game season. That's basically what it is too. So I mean, I agree with you there.
Yep.
But we'll see. It ought to be a really good game. The other game, I do think, I have the feeling that game, the NFC Championship game, I think is really, really going to be a real tight one, but I think it's really going to be a good one.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be a really, really, really good game, and very competitive too. I think it's going to be a back and forth. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a high scoring back and forth affair, but I think it's going to be a halfway decent back and forth, halfway decent affair between both teams. And for me, being in a store, I'm one, for the sports history, I'm one of the sports history types. I'd love to see history again. So I do think that the Packers, look, and giving a lot of credit to what the Niners have done this year overall, okay, and as a team, I do say the Packers are going to just edge them out. I really do. I think so. I'm with the 100th anniversary and just a tad over 50 years to the week, if you will. I think it's going to be a rematch of Super Bowl I.
Here's my take on it as well. I look at it as the San Francisco 49ers are going to be around for a little while, challenging to go to the Super Bowl, or at least challenging to go to the conference championship for the next couple of years. I don't see San Francisco going anywhere anytime soon. I think they've got a good GM, head coach, quarterback. I think they got talent throughout the team. So I don't see San Francisco dying off, this being a one-year thing for the 49ers. I think they're going to be around and challenging for the next couple of seasons at least.
An awesome talent of nucleus, a nucleus of talent.
And I look at the Green Bay Packers, and I see Aaron Rodgers going to be, I believe it's 37-ish next season. And I look at Aaron Rodgers, and yes, you see some of the quarterbacks like Josh McCown, staying around until they're 40 or a little bit maybe after 40. But, once you get into your late 30s, you're not quite the same guy you were back in your early to mid 20s. We've seen Aaron Rodgers suffer some injuries within the past few years. And I'm looking at, Aaron Rodgers maybe in his mind thinking this might be my last best chance to get to and possibly win a Super Bowl. And that may he may be putting a little bit more pressure on himself to execute. He also hasn't been throwing a lot of interceptions recently. So I look at Aaron Rodgers, and I think he's bound and determined to get this win on Sunday against a very, very, very good 49ers team. And like you, I think this is going to be a humdinger of a football game. But I think that Aaron Rodgers, he's going to reach back maybe late in the game for that Aaron Rodgers Packer magic and somehow pull this one out.
Okay.
Just because he may be looking at this, and it's like you look around the NFC. I mean, if the Eagles hadn't suffered as many injuries as they had suffered, especially in the last game, if Carson Wentz wasn't given a concussion, who knows? Maybe the Eagles advance. They get Deshaun Jackson back. Who knows what happens there?
Right.
But they're going to be probably looking to be younger and healthier next season. You got new head coaches within the division. You got the 49ers, Seahawks aren't going anywhere. They're going to be healthier next year. Vikings still may be challenged. I mean, you're going to have the Saints are probably still going to be there as well as a playoff viable team. Who knows what happens with the Rams? So you're going to have all these teams getting healthier, getting better. And this might be Aaron Rodgers' last chance to really get to and win a Super Bowl. So I think he's going to go out there and he's going to put the pedal to the metal and pull out that Aaron Rodgers magic and see what he can do to get the Packers to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I do. And like I said, something is telling me I do think, and I'm rooting for him. And like you said too, as far as the Niners, and look what they did in the matter of, I'd like to say it's only 3 years. Unlike teams that would take more than 3 years, in a matter of 3 years or so. I mean, they really, again, they put a real nucleus of great talent, on that team, both offense and defense, and they've really come away, really, really looking good this year. But I do, I agree though with Rogers though. As far as him pulling out a real magical play or moment of some type where I'd like to see it, that happen for them to propel themselves to Miami. So.
Yep, and I'm hoping Andy Reid gets there. He really deserves it. I think
I do too.
I think the Titans are going to be around. I think they're going to be a good team for a little while, and but I think I would like to see Andy Reid. In a year when the Eagles aren't playing in the Super Bowl with Patty Mahomes, I think he's an awesome quarterback for Andy Reid. I would love to see him get a Super Bowl ring.
No doubt.
All right, Ken, loved having you on the show. I know you got to run. You got some crossing guard duties coming up. But before we let you go, one thing I want to mention is rest in peace to Rocky Johnson, who passed away over the past day or so. One of my pro wrestling, I was a fan of his growing up, him and Tony Atlas as the tag team champions. Of course, the father of The Rock. So, again, thoughts, prayers, and condolences go out to the Maivia family and Rocky Johnson and his family and friends and fans. Huge loss in the pro wrestling world. And, again, he will be missed as... as a star in pro wrestling.
Indeed.
And before we let you go, how can people find you on social media?
Yes, on Facebook, Ken Moskowitz in parentheses Crossing Guard Ken, and on Instagram and on Twitter, Skywarn Spotter Ken. And let's also not forget two things. And on really, really awesome good notes as well, too, before we go.
Yep.
Happy 98th birthday today to the legendary Betty White.
Ah, yes. Betty White, the Golden Girl. Love Betty White. Yes.
Yes. And also, more importantly, too, before we go, we have to finally congratulate Lee Harold Carmichael, number 17. It was from 25 years ago when the name was first mentioned, when his name was first mentioned to possibly get into the Hall of Fame, which I know we mentioned. His name should have been mentioned prior to 25 years ago, but look at what's happened. And finally, Canton, you're getting a good guy.
You really are. And I like the two head coaches that are going in there as well. Jimmy Johnson and Bill Coward. Definitely deserving.
Absolutely.
Love that. All right, Ken, one last time, how can people find you on social media?
Ken Moskowitz in parentheses Crossing Guard Ken on Facebook, and on Twitter and Instagram, Skywarn Spotter Ken.
Awesome. Can't wait to talk to you next weekend when we will find out who will be playing in the Super Bowl and talk to you a little bit about that. And maybe, who knows, the Eagles might have some coaching vacancies filled.
We'll see. Let's hope.
All right, Ken. Have an awesome weekend, and we will talk to you next week on the Sports Skillet live stream.
You got it, Jay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. And we always enjoy having Ken on the show. Lots of good talking points there. Antonio Brown, the ongoing MLB crisis. I don't know if you want to call it a crisis, a scandal. I mean, tentacles are reaching out all over the place. I saw on my cell phone that Jack McDowell has said that back in the day that, Tony La Russa used a camera to steal signs back in the 80s. So, this is people are starting to feel empowered. Players are feeling empowered because they're not getting touched, and they're going and they're revealing, you know what, we've been using cameras here, and this is going on. So, the players are feeling very empowered about going onto social media and speaking out about how these teams use technology to gain an advantage on the other teams. I mean, this is really becoming quite the scandal in Major League Baseball. We want to know how you feel about it. Do you think Major League Baseball, do you think the commissioner was right in suspending the Astros GM and manager? Do you think all the other managers should have been fired as well? How far-ranging do you think this is? Let us know on our comment section, or you can tweet us at SportsSkillet on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can comment on our pages there as well. We want to hear your take on it. Who do you think is going to win on Sunday? Who do you think will be representing in this year's Super Bowl? Will it be San Francisco? Will it be Green Bay? Will it be the Titans in there? Who will it be going to the Super Bowl this year? Will it be Kansas City and Pat Mahomes? Drop us a line. Let us know what your predictions are. We want to hear from you. We are going to take a brief time out. We're going to have a short commercial break here. Then we are going to go to Twitch. My brother's segment always does a great job with that. He opens up the history books. We take a look back in history of some amazing events that have happened. You may have forgotten about them. And you can discuss them on our social media pages as well. He opens up, and it's one a day for the week coming up. So he does a great job. You want to stay tuned with that. And then when we return, we will have Mike Nebbia, and we will be talking some Giants with him, as well as some NFL talk again. So you want to stay tuned. We're not going away yet. We have the commercial break. We have Twist. Stay tuned for that. It's an awesome segment. And then we will come back and talk with Mike Nebbia after this.
You're listening to the Sports Skillet Radio Show, cooking up all the hot takes. Jump in and join us at 609-919-9200. Download our app at sportsskilletradio.com. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube by searching for Sports Skillet. And remember to show us some love. Like, follow, and share.
Remember the TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name? Never been there. But every time I walk into Wildflowers restaurant on Pennington Circle, I feel at home and that I belong. Friday night, I headed over to Wildflowers, and even though it was packed, I easily found a seat at the bar and got cozy with 17 TVs. Baseball, golf, entertainment TV, you name it, including all NFL games. The bartender Dave suggested I order the Buffalo Wing Sampler, and you could tell he was a fervent fan. But reviews on Wildflowers Inn Restaurant Facebook page demanded I tried the garbage truck pizza, and Kelly had just arrived and promised to help me dig in. Then it came. Garbage truck pizza does not live up to its name because it smells amazing and it tastes even better. Freshly sliced peppers and pepperoni, garlic, mushrooms, mozzarella, and meatballs all baked on this incredibly crunchy and warm double crust to hold it all together perfectly. Heaven, especially with one of their 23 beers on tap. I'm a believer. Go to wildflowersinrestaurant.com for more info or just come in. They are conveniently located on the Pennington Circle, right near I-95. I promise you, they will welcome you warmly, feed you well, and perhaps soon even know your name.
You're listening to the Sports Skillet Radio Show, cooking up all the hot takes. Jump in and join us at 609-919-9200. Download our app at sportsskilletradio.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching for Sports Skillet. And remember to show us some love. Like, follow, and share.
listening to the Sports Skillet Radio Show, cooking up all the hot takes. Jump in and join us at 609-919-9200. Download our app at sportskilletradio.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching for Sports Skillet. And remember to show us some love. Make sure you like, follow, and share.
Welcome to This Week in Sports History, sponsored by Wildflowers Restaurant. I am Jeff Selner. Let's dive right into the history books. On January 20th in 1986, 100 people participated in the first ever nude Olympics, an Olympic race in 28-degree weather in Indiana. In one incident, during a pole vaulting event, one participant inadvertently gave himself an impromptu colonoscopy. On January 22nd in 2006, Kobe Bryant, a shooting guard for the LA Lakers, scored 81 points against the Toronto Raptors in a 122-104 win. This achievement still stands as number 2 behind Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. Since the 2005-06 season, there have only been 6 games in which a player has scored 60 or more points, and Kobe Bryant has half of them. Kobe can't explain what got into him that night. I had pepperoni pizza and grape soda the night before. My knee was extremely sore. I think I had a burger and fries before the game. No joke. Went out there and played. On January 23rd in 1950, the Associated Press picked the Miracle Braves of 1914 as the greatest sports upset. The Boston Braves in 1914 had one of the most memorable reversals in Major League Baseball history, going from last place to first place in 2 months, becoming the first team to win a pennant after being in last place on the 4th of July. The team went on to sweep the Philadelphia A's in the 1914 World Series. On January 24th in 1950, Jackie Robinson signed the highest contract, $35,000, in Brooklyn Dodgers history. Coming off an MVP season, he batted .328 with 14 home runs and 81 RBIs. The Dodgers would finish second that season with a record of 89-65, 2 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies. On January 25th in 1987, in Super Bowl 21, the New York Giants defeated the Denver Broncos 39-20 in Pasadena, California. The most valuable player was Phil Simms, quarterback for the Giants. This was the first championship for the Giants since 1956. Then Giants coach Bill Parcells said, "This ought to dispel any myth about Phil Simms because he was absolutely magnificent today." That was about as good as a quarterback has ever played. On January 26th in 1997, the Green Bay Packers won Super Bowl 31 for the first time since 1967, defeating the New England Patriots 35-31 in New Orleans. This victory marked the last in a run of 13 straight Super Bowl victories by the NFC over the AFC. Desmond Howard, a return specialist for the Green Bay, was named MVP with a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. On a more somber note, on January 27th in 2001, a plane crashed 40 miles east of Denver, Colorado, killing 2 players of the Oklahoma State University basketball team, 6 team staffers, and the 2-person crew. Thank you for listening to This Week in Sports History, sponsored by Wildflowers Restaurant. I am Jeff Selner.
You're listening to the Sports Skillet Radio Show, cooking up all the hot takes. Jump in and join us at 609-919-9200. Download our app at sportskilletradio.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching for Sports Skillet. And remember to show us some love. Like, follow, and share.
And we are back here on the Friday live stream here on the Sports Skillet Radio Show YouTube channel. And we want to encourage you also to tune into our show every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey. You can also hear us on sportskilletradio.com. Just click on the Listen Live button, or you can go to the website and download our app and listen on the go that way. You don't miss any of the Sports Skillet Radio Show. And remember also to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Get word out there about the Sports Skillet Radio Show. We have great content. And speaking of great content, we have a new article on our website from Mike Nebbia, who we bring on to the show right now. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, unless you count this new Mets news that they let go of Beltran.
Yes, they did that yesterday. What are your thoughts about them getting rid of Beltran? Me personally, I think they should have kept him. I think they should have manned up and said, you know what, he was a player then, he's a coach now, and I think they should have retained him. What do you think?
They should have retained him. There was a pathway for him to remain on board as manager for Mets. He was a player then. He's a coach now. He's a manager now, or was a manager. And they should have retained Beltran. They caved to MLB. Such a Mets move.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more there, because MLB is not disciplining any of the players that were involved in this, that had knowledge of this, that have knowledge of other teams. They're not disciplining any of them. A lot of them are still active and under the shield of the Major League Baseball Players Association. The commissioner doesn't want the Major League Baseball Players Association to sue Major League Baseball and for this to be long and drawn out, kind of like Deflategate was. He just wants this to be kind of a short, concise thing where he goes out, goes out on his fact-finding missions, investigations, gathers all the information, and then disciplines the team. And Major League Baseball moves on. So he's granting them immunity for any type of information they can give him to further his investigation. But if that's the case, Beltran was a player then. He should have the same immunity. He's the only player out of everyone that was involved in this. He's the only player that was mentioned in the report. And because of that, he and the Mets have come to a mutually parting of the ways. I think that is totally wrong. Like you said, he has a pathway to stay as manager of the Mets. Give me a break, Mets. Should have manned up, should have put it back on Major League Baseball. And what the Mets should have said was, you know what? Beltran was a player then, and you're not disciplining any of the players, so we're not going to discipline Beltran. We're going to go forward, and we're going to monitor the situation. He's an upstanding individual now, and that's not the Mets culture. That's not the Mets organization to do things like that. So they should have kept Beltran around as their manager. I can't believe they got rid of him.
Yeah, Brody is a spineless coward. No better than the whoop puns, believe it or not. And I mentioned this in my article that was posted last night. This is the MLB version of Watergate.
It could be. I mean, you look at how many tentacles this thing in Major League Baseball is getting. I mean, now you have Jack McDowell coming out and saying Tony La Russa used cameras to try and get signals. I mean, it's so far-reaching. Right now, it's taken down the Astros organization. The Red Sox are searching for a new manager. You got the Mets searching for a new manager. Players are coming out left and right now, it appears, saying about how Jose Altuve was wearing a little buzzer on his uniform. I don't know if you saw that video, Mike. I mean, give me a break with all this.
Agreed. Altuve, Bregman wearing a buzzer. Wouldn't surprise me much with how this has transpired over the past few months in the off season. And oh my God, it all started with that whistleblower complaint by one of the Astros pitchers. I cannot recall his name, but one of the Astros pitchers filed a whistleblower complaint on his own team, and Jessica Mendoza, an analyst for ESPN, called him out on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With Jessica Mendoza, she has to be careful because she is employed by both ESPN and the New York Mets. So
she was caring for the Mets managerial job.
Yeah, I mean, they brought her in, they talked to her, absolutely. but she has to be careful with kind of what she says, because I don't know, she went public bashing Mike Fiers.
That's the name I couldn't remember. Mike Fiers. Thank you.
Yep. And and here's the thing. Here's the clip from Jessica Mendoza and what she had to say on Golic and Wingo on ESPN. Let's hear what she had to say real quick. There we are. Here's Jessica Mendoza.
The Astros going to another team and then going public with this.
Going public, yeah. I mean, I get it. If you're with the Oakland A's and you're on another team, I mean, heck yeah, you better be telling your teammates, look, hey, heads up, if you hear some noises when you're pitching, like this is what's going on for sure. But to go public, yeah, that it didn't sit well with me. And honestly, it made me sad for the sport that. I mean, this wasn't something that MLB naturally investigated or that even other teams complained about because they naturally heard about and then investigations happened. But it came from within. It was a player that was a part of it, that benefited from it during the regular season when he was a part of that team. And that, when I first heard about it, it hits you like any teammate would, right? It's something that you don't do. I totally get telling your future teammates, helping them win, letting people know. But to go public with it and call them out and start all of this, it's hard to swallow.
You have a problem with
and that was, of course, Jessica Mendoza on Golic and Wingo. Again, I don't blame Mike Fiers. If he knows something was wrong and he wants to speak out about it, then you know what? Speak out about it, because you want to get things right in Major League Baseball. You don't want a team having an unfair advantage over the other. Now I know that gaining an edge and doing things to the base, putting things on a baseball and the pine tar thing with George Brett, What was that, Mike?
That was George Brett in the 80s with the pine tar.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
And George Brett with the pine tar. So I know, there is circumventing the rules. But here's the thing. It is written in the rule book that you are not allowed to use technology to gain an unfair advantage. You're not allowed to use technology to steal signs. Written in the rule book. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred came out, said, if you're found guilty of this, I'm going to whack you. I'm going to come down hard on you. So you had these teams, the Astros and the Boston Red Sox, spitting in the face of the rule book and the commissioner when they did this. And now Altuve may have used a buzzer in his uniform. And you look at when he crossed home plate, he was clutching it. And he was telling his teammates, don't rip off my jersey, don't rip off my jersey, which gives credence to the fact that he was wearing a buzzer. I mean, I don't know how far this thing is going to go, Mike.
It's going to go a long way. It's going to go to Altuve. It's going to go to Bregman. It's going to go past the Houston Astros. It's already gone to Boston. It's gone to New York. It might go to Marisnick, too, as a New York Met, because he may have been involved in it in some way, shape, or form. It might just go to the Astros bench coach, too.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, no doubt about it. And, the Astros got whacked heavily for it. I mean, the Astros it's going to be a while as they recover from this because of the loss of 2 years of a first round and second round draft pick. They're not going to be drafted until the third round in the next two drafts coming up. So they're going to feel the bite, maybe not this year coming up, but in future years, they're going to feel the bite from being being fined and having the draft picks taken away. And now you look at it, you're looking at the Mets having to helicopter in a new manager. The new manager is going to not be able to choose his assistant coaches. That, to me, is going to be an issue of trying to find the right guy.
Agreed, and Beltran had already chosen his coaching staff, some people that he knows that he can work with. He had Terry Collins as a special advisor that he could look up to minimize mistakes, And now that he's gone, in effects of the scandal, which he shouldn't have been gone, he shouldn't have been replaced, shouldn't have been dismissed. Now that he's been dismissed, the new manager isn't going to have the free range to pick his coaching staff because the coaching staff is already in place from the short-lived Beltran regime.
Oh yeah, no question about it. And that's where I think these teams are really going to feel it, because if I'm a head coach, if I'm a manager for one of these teams, you don't really get to choose your entire coaching staff, but you at least want to have input into who's going to be your bench coach, who's going to be your pitching coach, who's going to be your first, third base coach, things like that are crucial, that are important, because you're dealing with these assistant coaches on a daily basis, and you want to be in lockstep with them in getting your message out and managing the way that you want the team to be managed. And now just helicoptering in a manager, I don't know how well he's going to work with these guys. You know, it's going to be chosen by the GM, and I don't know how well these managers are going to work, at least for the first year. And who knows if they're going to be managing the teams after this year, because they might not be a fit for the teams that they're managing. They may not fit with the coaching staff or the players, because whoever they hire is going to be their second choice, emergency choice. Like, we got a couple of weeks before spring training begins, and now these teams are going rapid pace to try and get, a manager in here so that he can at least dissect the team, talk to the players, talk to these assistant coaches, get a feel for the team and, the way the GMs work and everything like that. Instead of having a full off season, they got a couple of weeks to get everything in place and up to speed. I think it's going to affect things definitely in spring training and possibly into the season.
We got 3 weeks before spring training begins, and this surprise dismissal of Beltran, it's going to affect the Mets heavily going into the season. It'll affect them in spring training, possibly the first few weeks of the season. Once the Mets get settled in with their new manager, I think they'll be okay. I'd like to see Eduardo Perez get it. He was their second choice. Luis Rojas is also a strong contender, but I'm hearing rumblings about that it could be Piazza, or it could be a return of Terry Collins. Let him finish what he started in 2015.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you look at the division, you need a manager that has the ability to win now, because that's kind of the mode the Mets are in. You don't really, and here's the thing. I know Beltran was a rookie. You could say he was a rookie manager, but he had some cachet about him. I think now that he's out of the position, you want a manager that can step in, kind of command the room, knows what he's doing, and can be a playoff caliber type manager, because the Phillies are kind of ready to win. You've got Atlanta, who won the division last year, and the Nationals, who are the world champions. I know that both those teams are missing their third baseman from last year, but they're still in win now mode, as are the Mets, as are the Phillies. So you want the right manager coming in there and being able to lead the Mets to playoff contention.
And that right manager could either be a Collins, could be a Perez, or a Rojas. I'm not sold on Piazza as manager. I'd like to see that happen, but if it does happen, it could end up being like John McClain when he coached New Jersey Devils for the 2009-2010 season. The Devils were so bad that year that in late January they had to replace him with Jacques Lemaire.
Yeah, exactly. And,
he turned that team around and got them to the playoffs.
Yeah, this is very true.
That's the kind of coach Lemaire is. He doesn't take failure as a response.
Absolutely. And the thing that I think with Piazza is, yes, he would have some cachet. He would be a big name. I just don't know how well he would be able to manage this version of the Mets, because, as I say, the Mets are in win now mode, and going with that rookie manager at least on the major league level, I don't know if that would be the right fit for them at this time. I think, as you said, I think Terry Collins might be a better fit. Like you said, let him finish what he started. If he's willing to come in and take the reins of the Mets.
Yeah, let Collins finish what he started. He also has that cash. He can command respect in the locker room based on his Hall of Fame pedigree. But the Mets are in win-now mode. I'm not sure if Piazza will be the right fit. If he is, then I'm all for it. If he isn't, give him a year or two to fit into the mold of the current New York Mets. This isn't the Mets team from 2000, 2001 that were playoff contenders. This is the 2020 Mets. Mets for a new decade. Mets of a new generation.
Absolutely. And here's the thing to consider, too. This might actually work out for the Mets. And here's the thing that Mets fans have to consider as well is that by helicoptering in, a manager, of course, everybody's going to know that this would be the Mets' second choice. And I don't know what type of a contract this new manager is going to sign, whether it's going to be just for whether it's going to be like a 2-year deal, which is essentially kind of a prove it 1-year deal, or whether it's going to be for a longer duration. But the thing that the Mets fans has to consider is maybe next season or the following season, the new owner of the Mets, starts churning things a little bit behind the scenes. Maybe starts putting
in his own money.
Yep.
He's a multi-billionaire, by the way.
Yep.
Because he is the savior.
Yep.
He's gonna save us from the Will Pond.
Yes, and maybe at the end of this season, I know he's not going to have full control yet, but maybe behind the scenes he starts churning things a little bit. So if this is just a 1-year manager for the Mets, like maybe the manager signs a 2-year deal, maybe then the new owner comes in and is able to maybe influence Brody Van Wagenen or the Wilpons or whatever and say, hey, I'm going to be taking over control, allow me to sit in on the interviews, allow me to make my choice as to who I want to go forward with as a new Mets manager. So maybe this is just like a Collins comes in for a 1 year, does the best he can possibly do under the circumstances, and then at the end of the year, kind of like the interim manager type thing, and then at the end of the year they evaluate everything, and if Collins isn't the guy for them going forward for future seasons, you allow the new owner to sit in on the interview process, as he's going to have more control and determine who he wants as manager for the New York Mets.
Exactly. I'm advocating for Collins right now, just so you know.
Okay, and like I say, he wouldn't be a bad choice because he could come in there and finish, like we said, finish what he started and do that. Now, the Giants, we've been talking about them. They have a new head coach in place, taking over for Pat Shurmur. And what do you think of his coaching staff that he's starting to inquire about, that he's filling out? How do you feel about the Giants right now?
I was surprised by them picking Joe Judge, but then I looked into John Harbaugh, former head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, and he started out as a special teams coordinator as well. So,
no, that was his brother. That was the head coach of.
I get them confused because they look so alike.
Yes.
But anyway, Jim Harbaugh started as a special teams coordinator, so this may prove challenging. This may prove challenging, but also beneficial for the Giants going the Harbaugh route for their new head coach.
Very true. I think I think more special teams coaches should get consideration for head coaching opportunities because they deal with every aspect of the team. They're obviously in control of special teams, but you have offensive players in there. You have defensive players in there. They're not starting. They're backups. They want to start. playing on.
They want to prove themselves.
Yeah, and playing on special teams is not really, what they want to do. But it's like, okay, if I gotta be on special teams to be on the team, I will. But I'd rather be playing on defense. But this may be the only avenue for some to remain on the 53-man roster, and it's up to that special teams coach to be able to reach all the players that he has on special teams, from offense, from defense, make them come together, not give up big plays, have them produce. So I think more special teams coordinators should get a look during the interview process whenever there's an opening on a staff.
Agreed. And special teams coordinators get overlooked because there's that stereotype of only looking after the field goal unit, the kick team, the punt team. They do more than that. They look over every aspect of the team. They look over the team as a whole. What to do in certain situations. Do you go for an onside kick? Do you go for a split kick to prevent a run back? Those sorts of situations.
Yep, absolutely. So
it's like coaching a Madden NFL game.
Exactly.
I play a lot of Madden NFL.
Exactly. How good are you at Madden, by the way?
I've only lost once.
Very nice. Excellent. So I wanted to get your opinion on the couple games from last week, Mike. The Titans defeated the Ravens 28-12. Ravens were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Titans now go on to the conference championship. To me, that was a little bit of a surprise that the Ravens lost that badly to the Titans. What did you think?
It was surprising even to me. I had picked Baltimore over Tennessee, and there was just no stopping Derrick Henry and the Titans' offense that game. Lamar Jackson did the best he could, but the defense for the Titans stood firm on rose soil, and it was the Titans who took it.
Exactly.
I lost a lot of money on that game.
I was surprised too. And now here's the funny part. Ryan Tannehill, as quarterback of the Titans, is now 1 win away from going back to Miami and playing in the Super Bowl when he used to be the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, the irony of it all. Miami traded him away to Tennessee to back up Mariota. He ends up being the starter, and now he's 1 win away from returning to his old home barn.
Exactly. How ironic would that be? And
that would be super ironic if you ask me.
I agree. And I'm going to say that to me, this whole thing says something to me about the coaching of Adam Gase, the Jets head coach, because he was given a team in Miami with Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback. Couldn't do anything with Tannehill. Gets fired from Miami, resurfaces as head coach with the New York Jets. Now, I know the Jets had some injuries last year. Quarterback came down with mono, but you still had Le'Veon Bell as your running back. It says to me how good of a job the Titans head coach did, because he took that quarterback that Adam Gase, who's supposedly this offensive guru, this quarterback whisperer, couldn't win with in Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, in 1 year as quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, comes in as the backup, gets the starting quarterback nod midway through the season, and now has the Tennessee Titans in the AFC Conference Championship, 1 win away from the Super Bowl. That tells me, there was some talent there that obviously the Titans unlocked that the quarterback whisperer, Adam Gase, could not. And that is damning to me about the coaching style of Adam Gase.
Adam Gase is not a head coach. He's an offensive coordinator, just like Pat Shermer. And I don't see the potential of Adam Gase as a coach. Granted, the Jets did finish 7-9 this year after starting 1-5, but still, Adam Gase is not a head coach, and the Jets fans were right to call for his so-called beheading after that 1-5 start. He's not head coach material.
Exactly. You know, I couldn't.
He's not a quarterback whisperer either. He's a quarterback killer like Jeff Fisher.
Could be. I mean, like I said, I'm just looking at, you know, 1 year of Tannehill being on the Titans and having them in the AFC Championship game, 1 win away from the Super Bowl, when Adam Gase, who was this hot, you know, head coaching candidate years ago, and apparently still is for the Jets to have hired him, and, you know, couldn't win with Tannehill. Tannehill goes to Tennessee, and boom, you know, they figure out, okay, this is how Tannehill operates. This is how I'm going to call plays. And, you know, they have Tannehill in the AFC Championship game, you know. I'm telling you, you know, it's to me, it's damning on Adam Gase as a coach. I agree with you. I think Gase is more of a coordinator than he is a head coach. If he was a good head coach, if he was this quarterback whisperer, then why couldn't he work better with Ryan Tannehill? You know, that's my question. And one that's going to have to be proven over the course of time with Adam Gase as a head coach of the New York Jets. Of course, your former head coach is now the Broncos offensive coordinator. And I think, you know, and now we'll see how good the Broncos do next year with Shermer back being an OC rather than a head coach. I think that's exactly what Shermer is. I think Shermer's calling is as like you said, is as a offensive coordinator and not as a head coach.
Yeah, that's Shermer's forte, offensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. He did what he could with Daniel Jones. He did what he could with Eli, but it was the offensive line that couldn't protect. It was the defense that couldn't make stops, and that's what I think hindered Shermer as head coach of the New York Giants.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's had his most success when he's been an offensive coordinator and not, you know, a head coach. He had like a game or two as head coach of the Eagles a few years ago. But, you know, he had his chance with the New York Giants to be a head coach and wasn't able to get the job done there. So the Giants were right in moving on from Shermer as a, getting a different voice in the locker room as a head coach. And I think the Broncos will be better with Shermer as their offensive coordinator. As we just said, that's his forte. Now let's look at the other NFL. Look at some other NFL playoff games from last week. Chiefs come back after being down 24-0 and wallop the Houston Texans 51-31. Amazing comeback by the Kansas City Chiefs. Texans had it for the taking. They had it right there, up 24-0. Should have put the game away. Bill O'Brien costing the Texans the game. Again, the Texans offense, defense, after being up 24-0, ineffective. Couldn't really add to their lead and put the Chiefs down. And the Chiefs with Patty Mahomes come back and score 51 on the Texans. What are your thoughts on that game?
That was just plain insane. 24-0 in the second quarter. Chiefs come back, scored 24 unanswered, made it, 38 unanswered? Yeah. By the time the third quarter makes the halfway point, and they come back to win 51-31. That was just wild, okay? That's all I have to say about that game. It's testament to the talent of Patrick Mahomes and the coaching style of Andy Reid.
Yep, absolutely. I was amazed that they were able. Usually you get a team down 24-0, but the Chiefs are this quick strike offense. The leadership of Pat Mahomes Still a young quarterback, showing that leadership ability. Amazing job by the Kansas City Chiefs. Over in the NFC, we had the 49ers defeating the Vikings 27-10. Not unsurprising that the 49ers were able to beat Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. What are your thoughts on that win by the 49ers?
Didn't surprise me much at all. 49ers defense held their ground. They held the Vikings to minimal offensive series. That's what their defense can do. They can run the clock out. They can run the ball effectively. And you're forced to make the most of every single possession against this 49ers defense. If you can't make the most of every possession against the 49ers, you're screwed.
Very true. And then we had the Green Bay Packers defeating the Seattle Seahawks 28-23. Seahawks just couldn't pull out any more of that Russell Wilson magic.
Yeah, I was surprised at that one. I thought Russell Wilson had it in him to pull off one more comeback victory to get them to the NFC title game, but Aaron Rodgers had the perfect counter, and it was game over for the Seahawks. They crashed, they burned.
Exactly, and the injury situation for Seattle definitely did not help them out in this one. They had the injured running backs. Marshawn Lynch showed that he's pretty much done as an NFL running back. And again, the Seahawks just couldn't muscle up any more of that Russell Wilson magic. So now we have the conference championship set up for Sunday. We have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Titans were 9-7, the 6th seed. Chiefs were the 2nd seed with a record of 12-4. How do you see this game turning out?
I think Tennessee's run is going to come to a close right here. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City offense are just too tough. Plus, they have home field advantage at Arrowhead, one of the loudest stadiums in the league. Kansas City takes it.
I agree with you there. And over in the NFC, we have the Green Bay Packers, who were the 2nd seed with a record of 13-3, going to San Francisco to take on the number 1 seeded San Francisco 49ers, who, again, like the Packers, had a record of 13-3 on the season. What do you think will be the outcome in this one?
Apologies to your brother, Jay. The 49ers are about to run out of gold. Pack it in, 49ers. The Packers are going to take it.
I am in agreement, lockstep with you. I think this is going to be a fabulous game to watch. I think what it comes down to is I know the 49ers are loaded at a bunch of different positions. You look at that George Kittle, their tight end, their wide receiver, their defense. I mean, they have talent across the board. But what it comes down to me is the difference in the quarterbacks. Jimmy G versus Aaron Rodgers. And I just have a feeling that, yes, the Packers may be outmanned slightly in this one, but I just think that for some reason
has more experience than Jimmy G, despite Jimmy Garoppolo learning from one of the best quarterbacks of our generation.
Yep, and I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to have some of that Aaron Rodgers magic that he can pull out late in the game. And he hasn't turned the ball over frequently, whereas Jimmy G has.
Never turned the ball over in these playoffs.
Yep, and I don't think he has. And you look at Jimmy G, and he will occasionally turn the ball over. And when you're talking about teams that could be fighting for points in this one, because the Packers defense has improved from previous seasons, I'd rather go with a proven veteran quarterback. And like I was talking to Ken earlier in the show, Aaron Rodgers is like 37 years old. He may be feeling that this may be his last chance for a deep playoff run. He's already made the conference championship. he may be feeling, if I don't win this, if I don't get to the Super Bowl or win this year's Super Bowl, I may not get another chance in a stocked NFC. And you look at some of the quarterbacks in the AFC, he might be feeling this may be my last best chance to get a Super Bowl ring. So that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, you look at some of the quarterbacks in the AFC. You got Wentz in Philadelphia. You got Jimmy G in San Francisco. You got guys coming up like Dak Prescott in Dallas. Matt Ryan, we don't know how much time he has left in Atlanta. He's still pretty good, but we don't know how much time he has left. And look at the quarterbacks in the AFC. You got Derek Carr in Oakland, about to be Las Vegas. We got Mahomes in Kansas City. Tannehill in Tennessee.
Yeah.
These quarterbacks are just getting younger and younger, and guys like Aaron Rodgers are not getting any younger. This is probably Aaron Rodgers' last and best chance to win a Super Bowl. He's been to the Super Bowl once before in Super Bowl 45. I think he lost that one to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. But here's the other thing.
I can't forget Super Bowl 45 because of the halftime show. Ugh, I hated that halftime match.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk more about that going forward because after this week, football's taking a hiatus for a bye week, so we'll have it.
But I don't think I'm going to be watching that one.
What was that, Mike?
Aside from the Pro Bowl, but I don't think I'm going to be watching that one.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, the Pro Bowl is not really much of anything. It's just a vacation for some of these guys. But, in talking about some of the quarterbacks, I mean, we're going to have Burrow coming in to the league. Yep, going to the Bengals. So he'll be...
I always mispronounce that name, but he'll probably be a Charger.
Maybe, unless Tom Brady decides to become a Charger. You never know. Maybe Tom and Giselle decide that New England isn't for them anymore, and the Chargers make him a good offer, and he goes to and he and Giselle go out to the West Coast and San Diego.
Los Angeles. They're not in San Diego anymore.
Or Los Angeles, I mean. Yep. So maybe
they'll be Inglewood soon enough.
Yes, nice stadium there, warm weather, on the West Coast. You got the tech companies there. You can, like LeBron, can kind of set up shop for life after football. So,
much if LeBron went out and recruited Brady to be a Charger.
Yeah, it could happen, and you never know.
They have that firepower. They have that firepower with Paul George as a Clipper. You've got LeBron James as one of the Lakers. They still have Kobe Bryant as a special advisor there. So we might see him come out and help to recruit Tom Brady.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not putting anything...
You got Matthew Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting anything past Brady at this point, they sold their house, they moved, so who knows what's going to happen with Tom Brady, and, I'm sure that we'll be talking more about that as we... as
the off-season approaches. I'm already liking SoFi Stadium. It's looking fantastic. My favorite female artist is going to be opening it.
Really? And can you let everybody know who that is?
Taylor Allison Swift.
There you go. Not too shabby to open things up.
I've already let all of you know that I'm a big Swiftie. So don't make any fun of me.
No, not at all. I will say that I too enjoy some of Taylor Swift's songs.
Oh my God, Jay!
I will put that out there. Yes,
Oh my God, Jay! Anyway, it's going to be a rematch of Super Bowl I. It'll be the Packers and the Chiefs in Miami, February 2nd.
I would love to see that. That would be awesome. The veteran quarterback going up against the up-and-coming young quarterback. That would be awesome. That would be
That was
amazing.
my prediction for Super Bowl 50, by the way. Packers and the Chiefs.
There you go.
50th Super Bowl rematch of the first.
There you go. Not,
That was epic.
just, yeah, not not a bad matchup at all. As we are drawing to a close for the Sports Skillet Radio Show live stream for this week, Mike, any final words? Anything else you want to discuss before we start shutting this thing down?
Yeah, I'd like to wish my dad a happy birthday coming up. He is going to be turning 64 on Wednesday.
Awesome. Happy birthday to your dad. Didn't realize that. Hope you guys are able to celebrate with him. And he has an awesome, amazing birthday and blessed, happy, and healthy and safe year coming up.
And congratulations to your family, your dad getting out of the hospital. Hope all is well with him.
Yep, we're just adjusting to a new life with him at the house, dealing, with an LVAD patient that has unique challenges to it. So we're adjusting to schedule and everything like that. We appreciate, I want to, anybody that wants to stop over the house and visit and spend time with them and whatever, we encourage you to stop over. Just let us know you're coming over first so that, none of his therapists are there because he has a bunch of therapists coming to the house at different times and whatnot. So, just give us a heads up and say, hey, I'd like to stop by this day and time. And we'll let you know what he has going on. But yeah, I mean, everybody's encouraged to stop over to the house and or call him up or whatever. We appreciate it. It keeps him motivated and going because he's still rehabbing at the house and everything. But things are progressing little by little, and he's getting better, and he still has the same positive attitude, and that's what's driving everything and keeping everybody going.
Nice to hear, Jay. Nice to hear. Thank you.
Yep, and like I said, birthday wishes go out to your dad, and like I said, wishing him a happy, healthy, blessed, and safe year coming up, and hopefully you guys have a fun time celebrating with him this coming week.
I sure hope so, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, Mike. And by the way, any plans or no plans yet for your dad's birthday celebration?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
You got a few days to figure things out. That's cool. Got a few days there to work with your mom and, maybe surprise your dad or something like that, or have a nice celebration for him. All right, Mike. And we will talk to you next week on the Sports Skillet live stream. And again, have a happy and healthy and safe week.
You too, Jay. Talk to you next week.
All right. And, of course, that was Mike Nebbia. We want to also encourage you to go over to sportsskilletradio.com. We have a great new article from Mike posted on the website, so you want to head over there and check it out. We also have some good content that we're putting up there as well. Download the app that's on the website so you can hear us on our show on Sundays at 11. Just go over there, download the app, click play on it at 11 o'clock, and you'll hear us on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. And again, we want to encourage you to like, follow, share, and definitely subscribe so that you don't miss any of our content that we put out there on our social media pages and any guests that we have coming out. You want to be informed about that. You want to be informed about when we go live here on Fridays for our live stream so you don't miss any of the topics. And if you have a topic you would like us to discuss either on the show or here in the live stream, shout us out on our social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever you want us to discuss or any topics that you have for us, just let us know and we'll be happy to discuss them on the live stream. Just drop us a question or comment there, and we'll be happy to get an answer for you. So with that, I know we've been running long today. We're going to end the show now. We hope you've enjoyed it. We look forward to having you aboard next week on the Sports Skillet live stream, emanating right here from the plush yet not totally ostentatious studios here at Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Again, if you're looking to get involved in radio, you can contact us. I'm happy to help you get your foot in the door with Sports Skillet, or even better is to go to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. They do a great job in training you for a career in the broadcasting industry, whether it be radio or TV. They have a great teaching staff here. Chaz, Nicole, all the guys, Dan Fritz, all the teachers and everything. They do a great job here at Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Cherry Hill. So with that, we are going to shut it down for the week, and let's see if there's anything you would like to see on the show, just let us know, and we will discuss it either here on the live stream or on our show on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey, or sportsskilletradio.com. But here, remember, go in, subscribe. We want you to not miss any of our live stream on Friday afternoon. Until then, have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week, next Friday afternoon, here on the Sports Skillet live stream.
As you're driving around in your car,
join Sports Skillet.
Just what it feels like. So how do you like it?
So what is it? I'm curious.
You like it like this?
My God, do we love football.
Or like this?
I love the sport of baseball.
And what about this?
You can have a sports show without all the vicious talk.
Simple human decency.
Whatever it is that you like.
Yeah, I like chaos.
We've got it covered.
Right?
It's sports the way you like it.
My friends, you may not know this. It's got everything you want.
Here we go. Local and national sports talk that's fresh, in season, and FDA approved. If it's hot, you'll find it cooking with Jeff, Jay, and Kelly. They don't just stir the pot, they add more flavor than the other guys. Get ready to dig in and taste some Sports Skillet.
Ooh, tastes good.